Thank you. So you have to excuse my voice. I lost this Saturday after the Raptors won. I was out till like 4 or 5 on the street actually right here. It was crazy. Okay, so tonight I've been doing a few readings and I'm reading mostly from my books, but I get bored really fast. So I'm gonna read some new stuff that I just wrote. Not just what I'm not. I've been writing for the last year. From a new book called Boys and Girls Screaming. Just a manuscript right now. So all you need to know for these 2 excerpts are Candace. So it's basically the story about this 2 young friends, Candace and a girl named Ever. So I'm gonna read from Candace's perspective, and then I'm gonna read from Jericho's perspective, who is Candace's younger brother. So here we go. Candace. It's quiet tonight. I'm sitting cross-legged in the corner of my bedroom with just as much paint on my arms and legs as there is on the sheet in front of me. My mom is in the next room. I hear springs creak every time she changes positions on the couch. She's restless tonight. I'm waiting. I already know what's coming, even if my mother tries to make sense of it in her own mind. But there's no use fighting it, and she knows. Any pretending was gone the minute she pushed me out of her room. She remembers that day the same as I do. You should have died. She tells me this at least once a day, in those exact words. She speaks out loud about what her life would have been like if I just did what I was supposed to do. If I just let the Lord win and keep that umbilical cord wrapped tight around your neck. I can close my eyes and remember what it felt like to suffocate, to open my mouth gasping for air and not make a single sound. Maybe Mom is right. I should have died. I close my eyes tighter and hear myself crying. I'm laying on my back with my tiny arms and legs fighting the air above me. I see her face. She's standing over my crib glaring down at me. She doesn't pick me up. She doesn't try to quiet me. My cries don't stop. She unfolds her arms and walks back to the living room. The creak is a sound I'll never forget. This has been our lives for 5 years. I remember all of them. And now this day, the last day, the creaking stops and I hear her pacing back and forth. Our apartment is small enough for me to know exactly where she is with each step. She's trying to fight it. Trying, but there's no use. Finally, my room door opens. My mother doesn't move past the doorway. She's holding what looks like a gym bag in one hand and the pole of a suitcase in the other. I look up with the paintbrush still in my hand, paint on my face now, on my chin, and all over my clothes. I'm leaving, she says. Do you hear me? I said I'm leaving. I don't say anything. I watch as she turns around and walks out the front door. The last sound I remember is to click on the lock. 2 days passed before I hear the first knock on the door. I was still in my room, splashing paint on a different sheet of paper this time. My legs were still folded with crumbs from bread and cookies, and now part of a new mess of paint all over me in my room. More knocking, banging even. Mom tells me to never answer the door, but now Mom's not here. She hasn't been here for a long time. My paintbrush stops moving. I'm holding my breath and trying to stay still. Maybe they'll stop knocking. Maybe they'll go away. Maybe they'll think nobody's home and I can keep painting and splashing and eating cookies and ice cream and cereal with no milk for another day. Candace. I hear my name through the door. Candace, are you in there? We're coming inside. I still don't answer. I close my bedroom door and grab the sheet with the wet paint and squeeze it to my chest. The screech of the front door opening makes me jump back against the wall. My legs are shaking. I squeeze the paper tighter against my chest. Candace. Now my bedroom door opens. Candace, are you okay? The face is familiar. It's a man from downstairs that always says hi when I get home from school. The face behind him looks familiar too. It's Mrs. Hurd. I'm happy to see her even though I'm not sure why she's here. She takes my hand and brings me to the bathroom. The man from downstairs stays in the bedroom. That was the last day for a lot of things, which meant it was the first day for many others. My first time making a mess in a room without getting in trouble. The first time someone else besides my mom watched me get clean in the bathroom. The first time I got to sleep over in someone else's home. That was Mrs. Hurd. She let me sleep in my own room on a bed with pillows and thick blankets and lights that don't go all the way dark. One night goes by, 2 nights, on and on till I can't count anymore. I never left Mrs. Hurd's house again. She told me I could stay as long as I wanted. My mom wasn't feeling well and had to go somewhere to get better. And I'll stop there with that one. So this is Jericho now, and Jericho is Ever's younger sister. So the beginning part is, so actually I'll just describe this whole scene. This whole scene is how Jericho got his name. To my unborn child, I can't believe you are actually happening. For so long I didn't know you were possible. I didn't want you to be possible. Now you're here kicking and twisting and fighting to come into the world. Tears fill my eyes every day. Tears of joy, of pain, of fear, of moments I'll remember forever and ever. And you were born. My mom really didn't want to forget, so she named you Ever. Her first, her forever. I mean, how do you get a name like that? How do you even compete with that? The reason my mother wrote the note in the first place was that her pregnancy with Ever had been so difficult. On more than one occasion, she had to be hospitalized for stomach sickness that lasted entire days, or because of some oddity that made the pain in her stomach so unbearable it was impossible for her to stand or walk. The note was my mother's show of gratitude. It was her attempt at staying positive and tell herself that despite all of this, regardless of the pain and the challenges of bringing this child into the world, there will be no judgment. People have always assumed they know the significance of my name, Jericho, an ancient biblical city that fell to the Israelites after the army had destroyed the walls of the city by blowing their trumpets. That's way too surface for my mom. Jericho is from the Bible, that part is true. But it's said that the story of the Good Samaritan took place between Jerusalem and Jericho. My mother would never think of naming me Jerusalem, but Jericho made sense. Names are important, she always said. They guide our character. My gift to you is a name that would push you to have a kind heart. So Jericho, that's how it happened. My sister's name pointed to an endless existence, while mine depicted a historic past. A city that dates back to over 10,000 years paired with eternity. In our names alone, my mother created and recreated her own epic. So that's boys and girls screaming. I think I'll do one more. Which one should I do? Because I'm starting to read these and I'm starting to repeat stuff that I'm reading, because the best passages for reading, you have to read them all the time. I don't want to do the other passages. Okay, you know what I'll do? I'll read the very beginning. This is my first book called Out to the Fractured Soul. I'll read the very beginning paragraph and the very last paragraph. I'll do something like that. Let's do that. Okay, so I've been here before, though I can't remember exactly when or for how long. I know I've been here. My mother carried me in her womb for hundreds of miles to this very place, and as I exited the airplane for the second time, I acted as if this wasn't anything new. I watched curiously as my older brother got excited, blowing cold air out of his mouth, but most of my attention was centered somewhat in the distance where a group of tall trees stood, their branches left bare, illuminated by the melted snow. The branch had kept me still, however, it kept all of its leaves, and as I looked at the fire red tree blaze in the midst of the cold weather, I realized, even at that time, there was something odd about the entire scene. My gaze was interrupted seconds later when my brother blew his frosty breath in my face. I chased him through the tunnel that led inside the airport. I remember looking back outside for that tree and not being able to see it through the window. Today I would debate with myself whether it was there in the first place. If you knew me, it wouldn't be a stretch to think I imagined the entire thing. I'll read the last paragraph. It all makes sense. If I realize if you read this book and just read those last two paragraphs, you'll understand. I kept my thumb on the lighter and stared at the flame. I'm lying in bed with the blood dangling from my mouth unlit. My room door is closed and the window half open. Thoughts run through my mind, nothing I could grasp, nothing I can hold on to. I put the lighter to the tip of the blunt. A cloud of smoke rises and fades away till I take another puff. I feel overwhelmed even though I don't actually feel anything at all. I take another puff, then another. The clouds begin to linger and spread around the room. Some ashes have fallen absently on my chest. I think of an escape. Thank you.